Hi all, Morgan from Madeira, USA here. We're joined by Nancy Minnie, our lovely in-house embroiderer at Madeira, USA headquarters. Today she's going to dive into some best practices while creating 3D embroidery. She'll be using Madeira's E-Zee 3D foam and Bodybuilder hard, talk about the differences between the two and when to use each. Chime in to let us know if you've used 3D foam to create 3D embroidery. And of course, if you have any questions regarding the process, let us know. Let's dive right in. Nancy, take it away.
Thanks, Morgan, as usual. So I think that everybody has, seen a baseball cap that has the raised letters on it. And you can tell if it has foam in there by, just the way it feels. So it's not just your regular satin stitches that might have like a little bit of raised edge on there. Like I said, I think everybody's seen the caps, so maybe you've wondered how they do that. Or you've tried it and, you have a few questions. So I'm hoping to cover it all here for you today. We have two different foams. We do have our regular 3mm foam. It's kind of more on the softer side, but you can still get some great dimension that we'll see here. And the other product that we have is our firmer foam. It's our bodybuilder. So essentially, one's a little softer, one's a little harder. So they sound just like what they really are. And it really depends on what you want to achieve, whether you just want a kind of a smooth raise, or maybe you want a firmer raise. And I have some examples of each one. And then maybe you're going to ask, well, why do I have colors over here, but only black and white over here? These are what they're available in, and that's the first reason why. But when it comes to your black and your white, you can pretty much use those under any color. So for example, we have the two hearts here that Eric Campbell digitized for us for the 3D foam. If you were using these light colors, then you would use the white underneath it. If you're using the darker colors that you see here, you're going to use the black underneath it. So that if anything shows, which really it shouldn't, and we're going to talk about the digitizing just a little bit to help you out there. But say if you are using the softer one, then you do have some colors. So you can kind of match them up to the threads a little more easier. These colors over here, the gray, white, black, red, and yellow, those are kind of the common colors. So we do sell this guy as a bundle. The item number for that one, you just save a little more money by buying them together, is 12-18-5 for the 5 different colors. And then you have all these other colors here available as well. So I do want to point out a few things. You can pretty much use any thread when it comes to 3D embroidery. I've got it with our new reflective thread. I've got it with our metallic thread. Pretty much have used pretty much any thread that's out there. So just like with any embroidery, you do want to make sure that your tension's correct. So I do try to show this as often as I can. And you're trying to achieve this on the back side or reverse side of a satin stitch. Let's see if we achieve that over here. Not too bad.
Oh, yeah.
You do notice that when you do 3D embroidery, you do tend to see a little more of that bobbin thread. And that's not a bad thing because it's allowing that top thread to not squish too much of the 3D. So you're always trying to achieve, no matter what thread it is, you want to get roughly that 1/3 bobbin thread showing on the bottom. You're always using the same bobbin thread, no matter what kind. Let's see if we can focus on this a little bit. Probably not the clearest ones, but when it comes to digitizing for the 3D foam, you're increasing your density quite a bit so that it will cover that. But you're also, if you get to the end of, say, a column stitch like we have right here, you want to be adding your caps. And what that does is that perforates the 3D foam so that when you go to tear it tears off nice and easy. I'm going to show you that a little bit later. And you also have these things that are called planks. And there is a webinar on Madeira, USA. If you go to Meeting the Challenge Head On with Embroidering on Caps, Eric Campbell goes into great detail when it comes to the digitizing. And the planks are essentially when you have two kind of columns coming together, if you don't add those planks in between there, you're going to have a big gap, right? For example, right there.
Okay.
So there's some planking that kind of holds it together so that you're not, the object most of the time is not to see the 3D foam. But I've seen some recently where they actually contrast the color and expose the 3D foam. So there's always different things that you can do with it, for sure. So I do highly recommend go over to our website, check out that webinar that we did a few years back with Eric Campbell. And he's going to clue you in on how to do the digitizing. So now that we know we have the two different foams, I'm going to show you, this one here was done with a 3D, a regular colored one. I probably put a white under there. It has a nice raise to it. You can always use two pieces to get even more dimension. And I'm going to show you that as well. So this guy here, actually I'll show it to you right here with this guy. So this is the bodybuilder foam, and I did this one here with one layer, and I did that one there.
I'm going to try to get a side view here.
Yeah. You do it the same way. You just, I tend to tape the 3D foam down. Other people use a spray adhesive. So you have our MSA 1100, or you can use the MSA 1000. And you just put very little bit on there, just sort of hold it in place while you're embroidering, and it's going to perforate off really nice. So were you able to get that okay?
Yeah, I think so.
So hopefully we can, and essentially I'm just putting two pieces. So instead of the 3 mil, because they're both 3 millimeter thick, now you have 6 mil. So rather than having to have all these different thicknesses of the 3D foam, you can simply double. And I'm sure people can even triple that as well. Just adjust your machine so that they can work with that thick material for sure. This is just an example of our polyester thread. Very often when the designs are digitized, this one is from Embroidery Library. They will do all the flat area first, and then you'll have your placement so that you can put your 3D foam down. And we saved this guy. You place it down and maybe a little tape on the edges. You let it embroider out, and then it simply pops off, and you're left with a pretty neat design.
Yeah.
So that's our polyester thread. I also used our FS40 silver for these in the hoop designs. These are kind of cute around Christmas time or the winter. So that's a nice soft silver. And again, in the hoop, so, you got your templates and things that you do with that. But it first did all the flat stitching. Then I put the white 3D foam on top, let it embroider, and then it popped right off. So nice example with your FS40 weight. I've got some tools here I'm going to talk about. I actually just popped this one out this morning.
Wow.
This is the bodybuilder. These are 3D designs from Embroidery Library, again, under their alphabets. And notice how high that is with the two pieces of that bodybuilder. And maybe, Morgan, you can put your flashlight on. Maybe we can get that guy to reflect. So I don't know if you've heard, but we have our reflective thread that is quite new. And this guy sews out so amazingly easy. And I did want to test it with the 3D foam as well. And of course, it worked awesome. So
that looks great.
Thanks. Actually, you know what we're going to do with this guy? So we'll go back to that because so some people wonder, if you notice on the G, there's a little bit of white 3D foam hanging out.
Yeah.
I used a heat gun to get rid of the D and the O to kind of clean that up.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show how we can actually do that on the G. So I have my heat gun here. Hopefully it doesn't get too loud.
I'll stand back there.
Actually, my microphone's here, so if it gets kind of loud, I apologize. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the heat gun on it. I don't want it to get too hot, but it has to warm up a little bit so that I can use my tweezers. I can use my toothpick to kind of pop them in a little bit. So I'm going to add a little heat there. I'm going to reach over so the, maybe not so close. just warming it up a little. I can actually see it kind of shrinking in a little bit.
Oh yeah, it already looks better.
Yeah. So like Morgan said, that's already looking better. And if you see some still sticking out, we can kind of just poke it in there a little bit. Sometimes you can just massage it a little bit with your fingers and it'll kind of pull it right in.
Now, Nancy, does your heat gun have a variable setting?
This one does. This one came from Uline. It's a pretty basic heat gun. It has high and low for the blowing part of it, but it also has the heat settings up here. So from a lower heat to a higher heat. I always try to start with a low heat just because you can melt thread if it gets too hot. I've done it just to try it out to see how hot. So, you know, if you put it on that super high and that super hot, it's going to melt it. So stick somewhere in the middle for sure.
Perfect.
To start with.
Great. Tanessa, I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yes. So this one came from Uline, where you get your boxes. So toothpicks are something that you can use to poke those in. You can also use, if you have some tweezers, you can do that as well. And maybe you're wondering, well, what kind of a needle do I use when it comes to doing the foam? You definitely want to use a sharp or a universal sharp needle because you do want it to really give a nice perforation on that because you want to be able to remove all that excess. So sharp needles, and remember that your size of your needle is determined on the type of thread that you use. So the thicker the thread, the larger the needle.
Great.
So I worked on this project this week for this, and very timely for the summertime. And again, these are designs that are from Embroidery Library. So the flowers, I just changed out with all the different pastels that are out here. I also have a freestanding lace butterfly on there. I'm going to hang this on my door, and I just wanted to kind of show it. And I'll demonstrate a little bit on how I did that.
Perfect.
So you might say, how do you hoop a hat? Well, I used our magnetic hoops. So let me bring that out here. I'll show you. And I'm also going to kind of explain how we do the 3D foam as well. So I've got my mighty hoop here, magnetic. So what I do is I use the spray adhesive. I use our E-Zee tear waffle. E-Zee tear waffle kind of pops as you tear it.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't leave any residual backing on the reverse side.
So nice and clean on the back. Perfect.
Yep. So I would take a little bit of spray. So you don't really want to do it near your threads. So I'll do it right down here. Actually, that one's a little torn. I shall use this one. And what I did for each spot here is I used the adhesive to hold it. And then I took my magnetic hoop, which we know are super strong. So these are great for the Carhartt jackets, doing things like hats that are a little bit thicker. So rather than put my backing down here that you could do with your little clips here, you would take this. So I have stuffing. I'll pull that out. There we go. I did take my little tie off as well.
You lost yours.
I did. And to get it up there like that, I just flattened it. Put my hoop up like that. Not very graceful, but you know, once it goes and it grabs it, if you put it in the right spot, it grabs it.
Oh yeah, nice and easy.
Nice and easy. And I just release it manually so that it doesn't have a lot of stress on it. So that's what I did for the hat, so that you can hoop it, because you certainly don't want to put that in your regular hoop. And now I am going to demonstrate kind of the steps that you do when it comes to 3D embroidery. So typically for this flower here, like I said, it embroiders the flat part first. So I used a little bit of the water-soluble topping that we have, E-Zee Aqua Supreme, and did that part first. Now I knew that I was going to need a piece of white foam to do the flowers. So I taped that right in the middle. And then I brought it to the machine and I embroidered it. And that's what you're going to see.
Nice.
So now you can just simply pop it off.
How easy that rips off.
It does.
And that's because of the sharp needle that you're using?
The sharp needle, the digitizing.
Perfect.
And there it is. I can do a little bit of heat. Anything that's popping out will suck it right in.
That's great.
And that's how you do 3D embroidery.
Awesome.
Do we have any other questions, Morgan?
Not right now. Nancy,
Okay.
This is a great insight on how to work with the 3D foam. The products covered here, the E-Zee 3D foam and the E-Zee Bodybuilder Hard, are of course available at MadeiraUSA.com. Or if you'd like to call them in at 800-225-3001, you're able to add those to your next order by phone as well. That's all for now from us. Thank you guys so much for your time, attention, and interaction this afternoon. Be sure to check back in the next couple of weeks for more videos on embroidery products, tips, tricks, and techniques. We are Madeira USA, and we will see you next time.
See ya.